The number of death row inmates changes frequently with new convictions. Appellate decisions overturning conviction or sentence alone, commutations or deaths, through execution or otherwise. In 32 countries, detailed data, 5,796 people have been jailed for longer than a year without being convicted or sentenced. So in this video, we are going to tell you about top 5 criminals reacting to life sentence. The video is going to be amazing, so make sure you stick to the end. Bernie Madoff. The disgraced financier Bernie Madoff has been sentenced to a maximum of 150 years in prison for masterminding a $65 in fraud that wrecked the lives of thousands of investors. The U.S. District Judge Denny Chin described the fraud as staggering and said the breach of trust was massive and that a message was being sent by the sentence. The sentence, which means the 71-year-old fraudster will end his days in prison, was handed down at an emotional hearing in a lower Manhattan courtroom, where victims were given the chance to tell how the fraud had destroyed their livelihoods. Stephen Sanderson. Some people think Stephen D. Sanderson is a hero for killing his child molester prison cellmate. Sanderson said, but he wants the world to know he isn't. It's been 2 months since Sanderson laid out his rationale for the killing before a Saginaw County judge. Wednesday, April 22, he returned to court to hear his sentence. People think I'm some kind of hero when I'm actually not, said Sanderson moments before Saginaw County Chief Circuit Judge Fred L. Borchard sentenced him for killing Theodore Dyer in October at the Saginaw Correctional Facility in Freeland. Victor Bout. When a Russian court sentenced U.S. basketball star Brittany Griner to 9 years in prison for possessing cannabis vape cartridges in her luggage, talk of a prisoner swap between the two countries intensified. Of the Russians held in the United States, by far the best known is a 55-year-old arms dealer who has spent the last decade in a federal prison in Illinois. Nicknamed the Merchant of Death, he was convicted in 2011 on charges that included conspiring to hurt Americans and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. James Osuna. In Kern County, the story of James Osuna begins with a man known for his tattooed face that looks like a comic book villain you'd never want to approach any time. In 2019, news broke out of a heinous crime at the Corcoran State Prison in California, where a prisoner, James Osuna, had tortured and beheaded his fellow cellmate. But this was not the first time Osuna was in the news. In 2011, he was arrested for murdering a 37-year-old mother of 6, Yvette Pena. In 2019, news broke out of a heinous crime at the Corcoran State Prison in California, where a prisoner, James Osuna, had tortured and beheaded his fellow cellmate. But this was not the first time Osuna was in the news. In 2011, he was arrested for murdering a 37-year-old mother of 6, Yvette Pena. The case took more than 6 years before Osuna finally entered a guilty plea in 2017 to avoid the death penalty. Eng Lap Sin. A U.S. court has convicted the Chinese billionaire of bribing 2 senior UN diplomats to help him gain backing for a conference center in Macau, a case that highlights the trading of cash for influence at the international body. Eng Lap Sin faces a possible prison sentence of more than 60 years after a federal court in New York City convicted him of 6 charges including bribery, money laundering, and corruption. Prosecutors said the bribes went to former UN General Assembly President and Antiguan diplomat John Ash, who in 2012 introduced a document at the UN in support of Mr. Ng's real estate project. Mr. Ash was charged in 2015 with taking $1.2 million in bribes from Mr. Eng, but months later was found dead in his home from injuries suffered when a barbell he was lifting from a bench dropped on his neck. Prosecutors accused Mr. Eng of paying bribes to gain UN endorsement for a project in the Chinese territory of Macau that he billed as the Geneva of Asia. Let us know your opinion in the comment section below. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.